7. And McCarron goes down the field, and it's caught and breathes in for the touchdown.
Two things that like that suck. Depth, tactics, 85 will always good.
Welcome to New Stripe City, a podcast for diehard Bengals fans. I'm your host, Ace Boogie, and today is episode 20 entitled Cowboy Chaos. And before I get into today's episode, I just want to give you guys a brief update. If you noticed, there wasn't a show last week. We're going through some technical difficulties and moving some things around in terms of our podcast. So basically what happened was the place we were hosting the podcast no longer offers hosting as an option, which we just recently found out when we tried to upload our last podcast. So we're in the middle of mixing those things over, but I felt like I wanted to come by and drop off my opinions on yesterday's game, the Cowboys game. And I'd like to thank some of the guys who sent me some emails requesting my thoughts. I truly appreciate it. And you know, even with this thing going on, we'll go ahead and drop this video for you guys, and hopefully the file should be transitioning here pretty soon. So hopefully we'll get all of those episodes back up into the iTunes store and on our other platforms as well. So jumping right in, the Bengals game against the Cowboys, probably one of the worst showings for this team this entire season so far. We still have the rest of the season left, but the Bengals were basically dominated. They looked lost. They looked like they weren't ready to play. They looked like they weren't as physical. They didn't want it, and it was a really embarrassing showing for this team. So let's talk about a lot of the negatives. It's said that the game is won within the trenches. This game proved that. The Dallas offensive line, and I take my hats off to them, they've invested an abundance of draft picks and money into this offensive line. And they've really made our defensive line look like child's play. I mean, I'm just being honest there. Guys were getting blown off the ball. There was no penetration for a while. We did get some here and there, but for the majority of the game, there was no penetration. We were getting blown off the ball. Ezekiel Elliott was just slashing this defense like there was no tomorrow. And this was actually my worst nightmare coming true. Earlier in the season, if you guys have been following my show here, I kind of gave my predictions on the season. I'm not sure what my record is with my picks as of now. I probably will go back at some point during the season, more than likely the midway mark, and do an analysis. But I know that I had this game as a loss, but I did not think that this loss was going to be as bad as it was, especially with certain things that changed with Dak Prescott becoming the quarterback and things of that nature. But I mean, I didn't want to be right at the same time. Where do I start? So the offensive line for the Cowboys clearly dominated us. The defense was not on the same page. It was clear. Linebackers, corners, the defensive line, they were not on the same page. You could see it on the sideline. And to me, there was definitely a feeling that we've all felt with our rush defense. There is no one that is on that line that is a designated dominant run stopper. Okay, so we have Pat Sims, but other than him, you know, I mean, you might be able to say Michael Johnson on the edge, but to me, this entire year, the rush edge on our defense has been a problem. Like, setting that edge perimeter to stop running backs from going around the edge and going up the sideline has been a problem for us this entire season. And I mean, Ezekiel Elliott, it didn't matter where he was going, whether it was to the edge, whether it was to the inside, he got to do whatever he wanted, and that was an issue. We had some of our run-stopping linebackers in there, Vontaze Burfict. I mean, the guys just looked bad, and there's no other way for me to put it. They looked very bad. And I really don't have any positive parts to take away from the defense. The linebackers, I don't know what is going on. I don't know what's going on there, but the linebackers weren't doing anything. Our secondary, I mean, guys like Terrence Williams, I mean, oh man. It just really was a horrible performance for this team. I mean, there's no other way to cut it up. And for that to be one of the strongest parts of this team, they were basically exposed. And you talk about losing guys like Andrew Billings and some of the other pieces that we lost. I mean, Andrew Billings is a huge piece to lose, but Andrew Billings isn't going to affect the outcome that much of that game. So I don't know exactly what the Bengals plan on doing. I don't know how they will fix this. I don't know if Paul Gunther has something that he can do. Yesterday, I was talking with a friend. I said that I think that the Bengals need to have a players-only meeting about this game. I mean, they were exposed. They were flat out exposed. For 48 minutes, they were exposed. So, there's going to have to be something that has to get done here. And I don't have the answers. I don't have the answers, Sway. But somebody's going to have the answers. Moving on to coaching. Coaching for me in this game got an F. I mean, these guys clearly were not prepared. Okay? The conservative calls that were made in this game were ridiculous. They were ridiculous. Okay? When you get punched in the mouth in a fight, you don't go over to the corner and roll into a ball and give up. You know, there were times where the momentum was clearly on the side of Dallas. We were clearly getting gashed, and we're not going for it on fourth down. We're punting it to try to play this field position game, and I don't understand that. When your offense cannot, when your defense cannot stop an offense and it's clear, you're going to have to take some chances, and you're going to have to trust your quarterback and that offense to pick up a first down. You're showing that you don't have any faith in your offense by punting and not going for it in a game where you know that Dallas has the absolute momentum in this entire game. So that was really, I really was scratching my head when it got to 14-0 and you're punting the ball and you're not taking chances. That's not the way that football is won. And that doesn't send a good message to your team. Now, I will be the first to say that I support Marvin Lewis. I'm not going to get up here and rag on the guy. We know what Marvin Lewis is. He is what he is, okay? He's a good coach for his players. He's a good coach for turning the organization around, but he has his flaws. Everyone has their flaws, okay? Every coach has flaws. Every team has flaws. Every owner has flaws. But Marvin's flaw to me is that he struggles with having his team mentally prepared for every game, okay? Every big game, excuse me. So the team tends to come out kind of flat in big games that they, are favored to win, or some games that they should win, or games that are must wins. And the team kind of resembles the coach in a sense where they don't come out with the energy, they don't come out with the confidence, they don't come out with the courage And I'm really tired of seeing that. And I'm not going to put this all on Marvin, because let's step over to the offense. The offense played terrible. Terrible. I mean, we all know that AJ Green is the best player on this team. AJ Green was not really targeted early on in this game, and I understand that. But what I don't understand is how other players are not, in a sense, utilized in this game. I don't know if it's that they're not good enough. I don't know if they're not getting the plays called for them. I don't know if we don't know how to use them. I really don't understand what is going on. You look at guys like Tyler Boyd, and you look at guys like Brandon LaFell. I'm just gonna roll through some numbers here. I hope you guys don't mind, but I'm just gonna scroll through a couple of numbers here as far as the Bengals receivers. So we have Brandon LaFell, who had 8 receptions, 68 yards, 2 touchdowns. Okay, those numbers don't sound bad, but majority of those numbers came in garbage time, which was around the fourth quarter. Okay, you've got AJ Green, 4 receptions for 50 yards. He had 8 targets. Then after that, Giovanni Bernard had the third most receiving yards in this game. We're talking about 6 receptions, 46 yards, 6 targets. CJ Uzoma, 5 targets, 43 yards. Tyler Boyd, 3 receptions, 33 yards with 5 targets. Tyler Kroft, 3 targets, 29 yards. Okay, 3 receptions. So we have to get something else from these guys. I mean, I don't understand what it is. And I was talking to some of the Bengals fans and one of these message boards, and I was saying that we miss Marvin Jones. I mean, I'm not afraid to admit that. Marvin Jones leaving has affected this offense. And if you do not believe that, then you're lying to yourself. You're lying to yourself. Now, this is why, to me, it's not just about the stats with Marvin Jones. It's not just about that. He is a very good receiver. But when you had Marvin Jones, you had the luxury of the defense worrying about him, the threat of Marvin Jones. Okay, he was a guy that could take the top off of defense. So when you had AJ Green on the other side, you couldn't afford to designate a safety and a corner towards the side of AJ Green. You couldn't really do that because, Marvin Jones might take the top off. But when you have a guy sitting over there like Brandon LaFell, and no offense to Brandon LaFell, but he doesn't have that. He's not the same threat, okay? A defense isn't going to look at him and say, okay, we need to be worried about Brandon LaFell this week. No disrespect, but they're not going to say that. The same with my boy Tyler Boyd, just because speed is not his forte. And both of these guys have not proven, better yet, both of these guys in this offense have not proven that they are viable receiving threats for the defense to pay attention to. So you've got a guy over here in AJ Green who's had games where he's well over 150 receiving yards. So who else are they going to guard? And the worst part about it is that Tyler Eifert isn't there. So when you had a guy like Jones, he was a viable threat that you could go to, that you could depend on, and that the defense would be scared of. Okay? You don't have that now. So teams are game planning exactly like the Cowboys and exactly like the Steelers. Okay, so the blueprint for how to play the Cincinnati Bengals and how to stop them on offense is out there. So why we haven't changed things up or tried to get other guys involved, I have no idea. Now, I did like the idea of Gio being involved early, but there's got to be something else out there. I don't know if it's the personnel. I don't know if it's the play calling, but something has to change. Something has to change. Like, we can't. This is going into week 6, and we still don't have a guy that's raised his hand to come out there and say that he's going to be the guy that's going to be able to be the second option, second receiving option in this offense. And that's a problem. That's the problem, and we saw it yesterday. Because if you shut down A.J. Green and you double him, there is nobody else on this offense within the receiving role that is legit enough to come out there and provide a threat. Now, I don't know if you guys want to start to put Giovanni Bernard in the slot more. I don't know if Rex Burkhead needs to play out there. I don't know if Alex Erickson needs to get more snaps out there. I don't know if it's a Cody Core thing, but this is getting ridiculous. Okay? And, to me, I felt that the issue was that Tyler Eifert wasn't there, because at least with Eifert, you can have that same effect of teams not being able to double AJ because it leaves the middle of the field wide open. But we don't have him, okay? And we knew that was a potential consequence when Marvin Jones left. And we knew that was going to be a potential thing that could happen going into this year, because we know that Tyler Eifert is a great player, but we know that he has an injury history. We know that the probability of him being injured is a roll of a dice, okay? So I say that to say this, that Ken Zampese, my friend, we have to do something with this offense, man. I don't understand what it is. I heard a stat on ESPN that was wrong. I don't know if Stephen A was mixed up or not. I'd salute Stephen A. I respect him. He stated that the Bengals offense was 25th in rushing, which is correct. But he said that we were 25th in passing, which is incorrect. And what's weird is we're 5th in the league in passing. But are we only passing to A.J. Green? I don't understand how that's even possible, but I just looked it up on NFL.com, and we're 5th overall in passing yards per game within the league. So I don't know what exactly that is. But this offense, man, and some people were trying to blame it on Andy. Andy Dalton is not the problem in this offense. Andy Dalton has played very good this year. He's played solid. Let me pull his stats up. A lot of people are calling for AJ McCarron. I mean, that's not gonna solve the problem. I like AJ McCarron, but he is not gonna answer any problems about this offense right now. You're talking about a guy in Andy Dalton that had 269 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, and he was sacked 4 times. Okay, that's not an issue there, and that brings me to the next issue: the offensive line. Okay, there were a lot of people last year that complained about Andre Smith. Okay, Andre Smith, he definitely made a lot of mistakes. He definitely had some false starts here or there. But, you kind of start to miss him when you look at what's happening to Cedric on the right side. There's a learning curve. He doesn't understand the stunts. Kevin Zeitler got called for 2 penalties. Russell Bodine was being Russell Bodine. This offensive line is falling apart. I don't understand it. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's that these guys aren't on the same page. But, it's showing out there. And it's not like Andre Smith is doing well out there in Minnesota, because he hasn't even been active the last couple of games. But, if you're asking me, I never saw anybody come through on Andre Smith like that last year repeatedly. I'm not saying anything bad about Ced, but these are growing pains that we have to get used to, and I don't know if right now is the right time. But the offensive line played horrible. They've been playing horrible, and they need to improve. The only other teams that have worse offensive lines, and this might be a stretch, but the only ones that I've visibly seen that were as bad are Miami, and Indianapolis. It's not that bad, but man. You're giving up 4 sacks. Come on. Andy Dalton is not going to be able to do anything with that. The defense played horrible. Everybody played horrible. Special teams played horrible. Everyone played horrible. But I say that to say this. I'm angry. I'm upset, just like everyone should be, just like the Bengals should be. But I think that this team can bounce back. This is adversity. And if you can't play with adversity, then you cannot play in the National Football League. Okay? So, coming down the stretch, we have another tough game. This easily is a team that could go 2-4. I would not be surprised. because you can't walk into Foxborough with that same sluggish attitude, that same sluggish play, and I don't know, this patty cake offense that you guys want to come out here with. That's not going to work, okay? Because Belichick is going to do the exact same thing on defense, and you better be ready for it. So I don't know what it is, whether it's a personnel thing, whether it's coaching thing, whether it's a coaching thing, or whether it's a combination of both, but something needs to change. Point blank, period. I mean, if this continues on, you're going to have to pick up the phone and get some trade talks going for another receiver, okay? I mean, I know that more than likely they will not do it, but they really need to get on the phone and call the guys over in Chicago and see what Alshon Jeffrey is going for right now. Or somebody. I don't know if you want to call Arizona and see what Michael Floyd is going for, but something needs to change in this offense, because we can't just put all our eggs in the Tyler Eifert basket and wait for him to get back. It's not gonna work. And I mean, wanting another receiver from another team to come in here, I feel like is a risk in itself, because they're gonna have to learn the offense, but apparently a lot of the receivers on this team don't know the offense that much either, because they're not really playing. So whatever it is, I just hope that we get this together. But I'll take a look at the schedule that we have coming up. So of course we have New England. Just to be honest with you, I think that that's going to be a loss. It's not anything against us. I'm confident in our ability to win games, but you're talking about going on the road against Tom Brady in his first home game back. Did you see the Cleveland game? I'm not hating on us at all. I'm just being realistic. But now, if this is a game that they do win, I'll be glad that I'm wrong. And that will be a huge statement game if they can go ahead and get that win. That would be huge. That would definitely be a huge vote of confidence. But I'm not going into this game thinking that that team that we saw yesterday is going to run the table in New England. I'm sorry. I mean, there's an any given Sunday logic, and then there's realism. I mean, and then there's pipe dreams. Okay, so I'm just being real about this one. They're gonna have to play their best game of the season to win this game. Their best game of the season. So we'll see. But after that, things do get a little bit easier, which I try to tell people. So after New England, we head on to play the Browns. Which if we can't beat the Browns, bro. If we can't beat the Browns, I just don't talk to me that week. Do not talk to me that week. We got the Redskins, we got the Giants, we got the Bills, Ravens. So those are a string of games that we could definitely win. We could win all of those. You look after that, then we have the Eagles, which should be a pretty interesting game now with Carson Wentz playing good. That defense is playing good. Then we've got the Browns again, and then we've got the Steelers, the Texans, and the Ravens. So we can still pull this thing together. We've been down worse than this before in the past. This could be like a 9-7 year. Again, like I said, we have to at least make the playoffs this year. Okay, if we make the playoffs this year, we get a win. All is forgiven. But these guys have to get it together, man. We got to get together, because like what's going on right now is not going to win you a Super Bowl. It's not going to win you a playoff game. It's not going to win you a regular season game. The game is won in the trenches. So there needs to be some changes, man. I'm just being real. There needs to be some changes. Like Russell Bodine, how many times are you going to let this man just get humiliated? Are we going to finally throw Christian Westerman in there? Like, you need to light a fire under these guys. Okay, you need to hold people accountable. You need to go through that film, look at who's messing up, and if they were messing up last week in the majority of the season, their spot isn't safe, fam. Nothing is guaranteed. Okay, so you need to look at Westerman. You need to look at Pat Sims. You need to look at bringing Paul Dawson back onto the active roster, because that was horrible. You need to look at all spots, man. All spots. I'm just being real. Unless it's Pac-Man, Burfict, and Geno and Dunlap, you need to be looking at all spots. Because yesterday, I don't know, I didn't see much of Carlos Dansby, but you need to be looking at all spots. Because that was not acceptable. That's not acceptable. And Mike Nugent is still missing field goals. We can't keep allowing this stuff to happen. Okay? You can't let a wound sit around and not treat it and not deal with it. Because all that's going to happen is it's going to get infected, and then you're going to keep dealing with the same thing. Okay? So, I think we need to smarten up. I think we need to make some changes. I think once the Bengals have this players-only meeting, they will be back focused, and we can do what we need to do to make the playoffs. Okay? So, we can all be mad. We can all let off that steam. If you guys have any comments, questions, anything you want to talk about, make sure to leave it in the comments. You can email me. My email is amnba513@icloud.com. I'll try to get to it as soon as I can. You know, sometimes I have to be at work. There's things going on. But, and let's talk, man. Let's talk. Who Dey Nation, let's stick together, okay? We're not going to fire Marvin. We're not going to bench Andy. Okay, we're probably not going to fire Zampezi. Let's just be real. So, what are we going to do, and what do we have to do to turn this around? Okay? You guys let me know in the comments. But, as always, it's Who Dey all day, every day, and especially on Sunday.